Hello, and welcome to Magic is Real, a podcast focused on exploring the fascinating world of near-death experiences, communication with spirit, and all things metaphysical and spiritual. The mission of this project is to share messages of hope and inspiration with others, and to spread the word that death is only an illusion. Thank you for being here with an open heart and mind. I wish you peace, light, and love always. All right. Hello and welcome to Magic is Real. I'm Shannon Torrance. Today, I have a wonderful human being with me whose name is Rance Dunbar, the Reverend Rance Dunbar, also known as the Chakra Doctor. Welcome, Reverend Rance Dunbar.
Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful, beautiful night, and I can't wait to get this moving forward and talk about some great stuff on your show.
Me too. Thank you. It's Virginia. It's 82 degrees and pouring rain outside. It's
Whoa.
such a weird magical night. So it fits the mood. And so I'm going to explain to everyone who you are. You are a person, but you are also a healer, a teacher, a speaker, and so many other things, which we will get into and I'll have you explain. But specifically, what we're going to talk about specifically means a lot to me
Okay.
because I know that you come from a fairly traumatic background.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of struggles. And I have also, as a recovering addict, a longtime recovering addict myself, this is a topic that really means a lot to me. Often we talk about near death experiences on this channel and proof of afterlife. And I also have a passion for the ways in which spirituality and spiritual journeys can help us heal from past traumas, from addiction, from all kinds of things, and really change our lives. So I think I'm very interested in the, as you said, transmutation and transformation that we can experience. So I am so honored that you're here to share your story today. And why don't we just start by tell us what you do now? What are the I know you offer a variety of spiritual services, and tell me about your mission and the services that you offer first, and then we'll go back.
Yes. So the number one service that I offer is deep intracellular cleansing and healing regimen. It is called Miracle Food. I've healed over 25,000 patients of what one might call incurable ailment. And that all started in 2014 when I met Dr. Sabian. He put me on to a whole nother consciousness of health. And so, but being the individual scientist mind that I am, I wanted to take a different approach to the path of natural, 100% natural healing. And so that's the first thing I'm known for. Chakra Doctor is known for FCA yoga as well. FCA yoga is a guided meditation created by myself. And so this is a meditation that literally helps you activate all 29 of your chakras and physically feel them as a physical presence coursing throughout your body. So, for instance, warmth, tingly sensations, electricity, magnetism, release of stress and tension, lightness, coolness. So, a lot of physical sensations you're going to feel during FCA yoga, and that's the name of my company, My FCA Inc. Right, and it is the only thing on. It is the best thing. It's a service, but it is the best thing on my brand, and it's for free, right? So that's the first thing that I had to let everybody know that FCA yoga. I'm really not the reason why they call me Chakra Doctor is because of FCA yoga, and then after FCA yoga, it's natural holistic healer, miracle food, and then after that, it's reverend and minister, right? A Christian reverend and minister at the same time. He's a spiritualist and pagan. Oh my God, how did such a thing come about? And so it is a well documented history, and I would love to share it with your audience tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I love too, is the that we were just talking before I recorded about the fact that you don't have to abandon spirituality is typically it's separate from religion. It is, but it also doesn't have to exclude religion if that, speaks
Well,
to you. And
remember, in the defense of both of the practices, I believe that they're not separate. I believe that they mirror each other, and the perceptions of humans make them separate. When you look at the practices in religion, they mirror the practices of paganism. As a matter of fact, historical documentation and historical fact shows that religion gets its foundation of its practices from what one might call spirituality or witchcraft. And so, what's the difference between this person going pray to an invisible God and this person going pray to multiple invisible gods? One is just a polytheistic viewpoint, and one is a monotheistic viewpoint. And so, but when you look at the practices, what it takes to appease their particular spiritualities, right? You'll see that the the actions of the church or the actions of the particular religion mirrors a lot of the actions of what one might call the pagan or the witch or the warlock or the whatever, right? And you see when you really analyze them at a parallel, they're actually one and the same with just different names and slight differences, and we latch on to these slight differences instead of these many, many, many similarities that mirror each other, like with Muslims and Christians, so I always tell people that's a unique just vision right there. Look at that. They both worship or profess to worship the same God, but they're killing each other. I think the humans got it wrong.
that
So,
is so well said. I've always said that. My personal belief is that all religions are valid. It's just that their interpretations may be different. But at the end of the day, we all who practice them tend to believe, not all of them, but that there is. We all come from. There's a higher source that we all come from, and there's so much more within that. But I love that you don't limit yourself to one practice, and that
well,
if
think
you,
about this. What
yeah,
think about this? Does God limit itself?
nope,
Does the all, or what we call the oneness or the collective consciousness, is it limited? No, it is unlimited consciousness. Infinity is unlimited. Eternity is unlimited. You can't give these great attributes to God, and then when it's time to start applying these attributes, you say, oh no, that's not God. Well, now you're robbing God of the attributes. You can't say God is omnipresent, but he isn't present in the pedophile.
right.
You can't say God is omnipresent, but he isn't present in the so-called devil. You can't say he's omniscient and he knows all, and he didn't know that the devil was going to do what he did. And you can't say God is omnipotent and has power over all. If you have power over all, then that means you actually control the pieces on the board, God. So what are you trying to teach us actually? Because in actuality, we see that you're playing a game. We see the humor in the game that you're playing. You've given us multiple chances to play. Even Christians have to believe in reincarnation. Why? Because Christ died and came back. Reincarnation. So Lazarus died, came back. Reincarnation. The girl that died, and he said she's not dead, she's only sleeping, and she came back to life. Reincarnation. There are over 3 or 4. Elijah, reincarnation. Elisha, reincarnation. There are over 5 cases of reincarnation in the Bible, but they tell you reincarnation is witchcraft, reincarnation is paganistic. Well, what about those reincarnated people in your Bible? So I always tell people that unless you are a studier, the Bible says in 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved. Okay. And so studying isn't just limited to the Bible. Studying is unlimited. This is why it's called knowledge. Knowledge is infinite, but knowledge is also power. So power is infinite. If you want to tap into the infinite power of creator, source, God, higher power, frequency, goddess, whatever you like to attribute this infinite power to, you're gonna have to start giving the attributes of the God and applying it to life. Hey, God is present in that orange. God is present in that tree. Oh, that's the devil right there. God is present in that devil. Why is God sending a devil to test you right now? What are you doing to attract a devil into your life? Do you know that life is all frequency? And God's frequency doesn't care if you're negative or positive. It only cares that you want something and need something and provides you what you want and you need based on according to what you think and feel. Period. God doesn't care if what you want is bad. God doesn't care if you want is good. God only cares that you want something. As soon as you want something, you're going to attract it to you. God. Any questions?
Wow. That's really well said, all of it. One thing, so before I started this podcast, I was thinking of topics that I wanted to explore. One was addiction recovery. That was where I started. And I was going to do it, and then I lost my voice for a while. Then, because I lost my voice, I thought I want to do something about overcoming adversity. I want stories of overcoming adversity and how people came out of their hard times. And what I love, and I just got chills, is that now then I chose this because it's my passion, spirituality and afterlife and that topic. But so I really would love for you to share because this is such I love your story is so inspiring and I know it will inspire other people as well. But you have you had a hard life growing up. I don't know if that's how you would describe it, but why don't you tell us about whatever you're comfortable sharing, what your life was like, what your life was like, where you came from, what you experienced.
Yes. So first and foremost, I would love to say that I come from what I like to call, the horror story of horror stories. I come from number one, child abuse. As a young child, getting your collarbone broke because you can't catch your first fish going fishing from your stepfather. That's a pretty shocking to your reality as a child at 4 years old, 5 years old. So that's where it begins. But before it begins at that, it also begins at I'm feeling neglected from my biological father, right? Even though he was a short distance away, it still was like he was a long distance away. Um, and that set up the stage for my mom, right, to be in a position to say, okay, well, I got another man, or I have to marry someone else. And at the time, and my mom was a unique mother. My mom practiced multiple spiritualities, multiple religious feats, and she was one of the only women at that in the 80s who was able to go into black churches and preach in the pulpit, and as well as go into pagan circles and be able to, converse with the highest of priestesses. And so, watching her, that helped me cope with a lot of the pain of child abuse. And when I say child abuse, meaning not sexual abuse, but the physical abuse, the coming home drunk and the beat you for no reason abuse, that abuse that makes you say, okay, what's really going on. This is early in life, so you don't think that, oh, this is what life is like. But when life is happening like that, you find ways to deal with it, you find ways to cope. And so one of the ways me and my mom found the way to cope back was fighting back, and escaping, getting away from it. And then to find out, oh, 3 years later, he stalks you and finds you and burns your whole house down at 9 years old. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. It isn't over. So, just going through the abuse of being mishandled by adults. A lot of us have to just, before we get into any of the, before we get into any of the things that we have to handle in our life, we have to go back and heal our child self that still is or may have been traumatized, and you still haven't fully processed or healed or forgave the situation, and still using it as an identity or using it as a crutch or using it as something. That's what I was doing. I'm speaking from myself, using it as an identity, using it as a crutch, using it as a point of reference to be negative to yourself, right? To see yourself as less than. Um, we have to go back and not only revisit those places, but I had to go back and revisit those places and truly forgive those places because they were tearing me apart, and tearing you apart how? Because it starts off, with that, but then, the fruit of the poisonous tree, the seed grows into something. The tree grows into something with branches and, a root and a stem, and it roots itself in you. And if you're not careful, that tree of anguish, pain, guilt, suffering, death, trauma, all of these things can, grow into its own tree in your life, and you're wondering why you can't never get out of these negative cycles. Is because you never you never uprooted and cut down your tree. You know, your negative tree. I call it Eckhart Tolle called it your pain body. I call it your negative tree because a lot of people can identify with pain, but most people identify with suffering. A lot of people, a lot of people, we can go through pain. Women go through pain all the time, having babies, get a tattoo, go through pain. You go through pain, your body heals, but it's the suffering that we put ourselves through, that emotional pain, that mental pain, that's called invisible pain, right? The invisible pain that we put ourselves through, the heartbreaks, the letdowns, the expectations of life that wasn't what you expected it to be, and now you're let down, right? And so that starts from the mishandling of the adults who mishandle us. No matter how they mishandle you, whether they mishandled you sexually, whether they mishandled you physically, whether they mishandled you emotionally, or whether they mishandled you, when it comes to neglect and not handling you at all and abandoning you and kicking you to the curb. It's all a management or mismanagement of how adults handled you when you were little that we all stem from, and it stems from that. And so that grew into, me and my mom, and I watched my mom too. My mom was a real strong woman because I watched her, come from nothing to something. I remember sleeping on the floor with my mom, and next thing years later, 3 or 4 years later, we're not sleeping on the floor or anything like that. We were in this nice world I never thought I would be in, right? So I was able to see my mom grind and hustle her way out of a particular financial situations and particular emotional situations and particular relationship situations. I was able to see her, how she handled crises, and how she handled people, different ethnicities, how she handled life in general. And she was just a goddess at how she handled life. She always knew, she always had the answer to every question, whether it was schoolwork, whether it was life, whether it was, regular mundane things that don't even mean anything. She just always had this answer. She always had the right, proper answer for every scenario. It was like she had eyes in the back of her head. And so, that's what balanced me through a lot of the rough times in my childhood, because I had a mother that truly, genuinely, unconditionally loved me. So unconditional love like supersedes all pains and sufferings. As long as I have this right here, then I'm going to be okay. But then when you look, you think you're going to have it forever. A lot of people, we think we're going to have our parents forever. We think we're going to have this gift that we call security blanket parent forever. And my mom got ripped away from me on Christmas Day, right? At the age of 16 years old, brain tumor. Now, understand, understand Christmas changed for me forever from then on out. Understand that when my mother died, a lot of the parts of myself that I probably would have inhibited got let loose. A lot of the things that a lot of the things that I would have got reprimanded for, um, were no longer under issue anymore, right? A lot of the things, and then a lot of the pain from it, I did not know how to transmute into something good for myself. So, going through that, going through poverty as a youth and going through child abuse as a youth, but having an unconditionally loving mother to see me through the hell was a unique experience. I had my father. Was um, my father was like a few miles away, and I saw him on occasion when I used to visit my grandma. And my father taught me a lot of things about reading and philosophy. And he was an Aquarius. He was real aloof. He was an Aquarius male, and he was able to instill a lot of my thirst and my quest for knowledge. I can definitely say came from my father, right? And I was able to he just used to stuff books in my face. And he didn't sit there to see if I read them or not. He just stuff books. Hey, read this book. You got to read this book. You got to read this book. You got to read this book. And I was like, oh man, I ain't gonna never stop reading books, right? And so my dad, he played a part in the fact that I was able to witness what not to be as a man and what to be as a man. It was just um certain parts of me as a child, as a what I like to call an alpha male child. my pastor father wasn't able to handle it. You know what I mean? Even when we got older and I asked him about certain parts, he was like, man, there was just certain parts of you, son, I just didn't even know how to address you. You know, you were ahead of your time. My dad told me I need to write a book, about my life because I've been through so much, and my dad died like a few years ago. Um, and so, you know, with my mother transitioning and now my father recently transitioning, it has put a lot of things in the perspective of who, I'm going to be and who I want to be and what legacy I want to leave behind for my child and my children, in this world of entrepreneurs. I call it soulpreneurship, and magic. And so coming from that space in New Orleans, Louisiana, high crime rate, poverty state, you know, low education. I'm a ninth grade dropout, people. I'm a ninth grade dropout, but I teach people for a living. I'm, a ninth grade dropout, and my business partner, Dr. Varun Gandhi, is a multi-millionaire who invested $150,000 into this ninth grade dropout. This is why I'm able to sit here and talk to you now, right? But I've always even though I was a ninth grade dropout, I was a ninth grade dropout because I always felt like our public school system was primitive. I always felt like it didn't support my dream, my goal, my ambition. I'd never seen myself working and for giving somebody else the better part of my years and then going to a grave and die. That never was my goal and dream. I always believed in the cartoons that I see. And I saw superheroes on my cartoons. I always believed in my TV shows, and I saw people who were well off in my TV shows, And so I always had this fantasy part of life that I always held in my forefront of my brain. I always believed that we really can fly. We just don't know how to do it anymore. I always felt like that we are these infinite, immortal superheroes on the inside. We just don't know it, and we just haven't tapped into it yet. But I've always believed that ever since I was a youth, ever since I was a kid. I never stopped believing in magic. I never stopped believing in the magic. Even when I saw Disney, I believed that there were people under the sea. Under the sea, I said, they really got people under the sea. People call me crazy. Now they're showing you they really got people under the sea, right? So I always kept the fantasy or the fiction part of life real for myself. I always believed in dragons. I always believed in angels and demons and gnomes and fairies and ghosts and goblins and the invisible world. I always believed in psychic abilities and telekinesis and clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, telekinesis, teleportation. I always believed in mutants and I always believed in all of these things. I just didn't know how to believe. I just didn't know in what way, shape, form, or fashion to believe in it. I just didn't have the format to put the dots of the puzzle together. But I never believed that they were lying when they called that a fiction movie. I always believed that, what if they're telling the truth and they're just calling it fiction? Right? That used to be my thing. I remember in Sunday school, right? Going to Sunday school, and it was, we're singing the song, He Got the Whole World in His Hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. And then I raised my hand. What now, Rance? If He has the whole world in His hands, why does He need our tithe and offering every Sunday? Doesn't the whole world include all of the tithe and all of the offering and all of the money? Why do we have to give him money if he has the whole world in his hands? I just want to know. Got punished for that, right? But I always was an inquisitive kid. I've always, and my mom taught me to be that way. My mom always answered every question I ever, had as a child. And she always just groomed me into knowing that, hey, there is an invisible world that controls this world. And when you see me doing all of these things, these are physical things that I'm doing for invisible principles. So, and then my mom dying on Christmas Day at 16 led me down an even more what I would call a straight path, right? And that straight path of me being the only child of my mother and father, by the way, no brothers, no sisters, no siblings. I have a big family, right? I have a big family. And guess what? I have millionaires on both sides of my family. And you would believe that one of my big family members would have adopted me or took me in and said, hell no, they kicked me to the curb and let me go into a runaway home, a foster home or whatever. And so, even though, my father, even though I had a father and my father was alive, he didn't raise me the better part of my life. So as me growing into a young manhood, not knowing how to transmute the pain of his abandonment, we bumped heads, right? And he tried to do dad things, but you weren't really there to do, like you got to put time in order to have authority with children. Children don't respect the person that hasn't put in time in with them, even no matter how much you try to rule them or train them or get them into a certain state. Time is money. And so this is why when you go to work, you have to clock in and they record your time at the job and you get a receipt called a check. Well, the same thing goes with parenting. The more time you put into the child, the more authority, the more influence, the more you'll be able to say something and your word will be law because of the time spent. And so, the lack of time that wasn't spent from him to me made him and I, bump heads as me being a young Aries, 16 years old, going on 17 years old, just hurt. My mom's gone, my only friend in the whole entire world. My life is gone. I'm ready to kill myself. I'm ready to kill myself, period. I don't want to live. I already know that she's on the other side. And like 3 days after she died, she came to me in a dream and I wanted to go, like, I didn't want the dream to end. And I wanted to follow her. And so at 17 years old, I attempted suicide and tried to kill myself to go follow her there. Right. And man, would you believe I still lived? It was it's crazy. So I took a whole bunch of heroin and a whole bunch of cocaine and a whole bunch of alcohol and a whole bunch of sedatives and a whole bunch of Benadryls. And I just took a whole bunch, too much to even be humanly possible to live. And I still woke up the next day living. And the only thing I could remember from that whole ordeal was, it's not your time yet, go back. And I was back the next morning, soiled from head to toe, like not head to toe, but soiled I defecated and urinated on myself. I was out for 18 hours. I was out for 18 hours.
But it wasn't your time.
It wasn't my time, but I tried to overdose and make it my time. I tried to speed up the time. And so that was the first experience of dying, per se. And then, that's when at that time too, as well, I was using drugs, namely heroin and cocaine, and pills and things of that nature to cope with the pain of the God of my life dying, man. Like my mom was like God, like seriously. You know what I mean? And I thought it was gonna be me and her for a while, man. I had a dream of buying her a house. I wanted to do everything, I wanted to just give her the world. I love her so much for unconditionally loving me. The only person in life that has loved every single part of me and never labeled, judge, criticize, or condemn me. Right. I wanted to, I wanted, when she left, it was like, I didn't get my chance to repay you. Where are you going? Right. It was, and you notice when people die, you always the person who was hurting say, "Why you left me here?" This is how you know we come here to experience the gauntlet, because nobody's never saying, "Oh well, we know you're good and we know you're on the other side." And like, "Why you left me here in this hell? This is hell, and you left me here." Right? That lets us know that we are here for a time being. That's what we are. We are beings of time. We are relegated to the standards of time. So therefore, we are here for a time being. But not knowing how to transmute that pain, I look for numbing the pain, right? And drugs, alcohol, and a promiscuous life. Drugs, alcohol, and promiscuous life was my answer to running away from dealing with, I don't have my mama no more. And, and remember, like, it was no other, that was the support system. Now dealing, understanding that not just my mother, but right before my mom, like the year before my mom died, my grandma died, which is my father's mother, and me and her, that was like my second mother. And my second mother died first, right? My first mother died second, right? And then my mother's the man who my mom finally found a man before she died, and he was a great, wonderful guy. And I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a cool stepdad. And boom, he dies of a broken heart 8 months after she died. Like dies in his sleep like literally dies in his sleep of a heart attack. They call it broken heart, right? They say when my mom died, he didn't, he quit work, he quit, like he did he went downhill, right? So watching all of these things transpire, and watching and then coming from, a poverty state of life, watching my friends and their parents and watching, just watch. I have a long history of people dying in my life. And that's unique in itself because, a lot of people who have been around me aren't around me anymore. And it's like, I have to be left behind for something, right? And so at about the age of, I want to say 18 or 19, right? Age of 18 or 19, at this time I'm living life on addiction. I'm sticking needles in my arm. In New Orleans it has a big heroin, addiction population and things of that nature. And so I'm um or my first true, I call it my first true near death. It wasn't a near death. I call it my first true death experience. And so I'm getting high. I get high, like I shoot way too many drugs that I'm supposed to shoot in my arm. But like in the back of my mind, there's still that suicide attempt that I failed. Like one day I'm gonna make it. I was too chicken shit to like shoot myself in the head or cut my wrist, y'all. I'm sorry. I wasn't that, I wasn't that gun ho at killing myself. I wanted to go out peacefully and I wanted to go out the fantasy way. I didn't want to go out the horrible, crazy way. So, you know, I overdose. And when I overdose, my heart stopped. And I'm up. I'm literally I'm at the time in New Orleans. There's this project called the St. Thomas Project. We're in the St. Thomas Project, walking out of an abandoned house. And while we're walking out of the abandoned house, my friends they got high. They're walking up, and I'm slowing down. And I'm like, guys, wait, right? And they're like, man, hurry up. We're trying to get out of here. We don't want the police to stop us or da 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 da. And it's like, guys, wait. And that was out. That was it. I was out, and I was still telling them to wait. But when I looked down, my body was on the ground, and I was still standing up, and everything looked gray, like it wasn't no more color in the scene anymore, and it was daytime. And immediately I knew, like, oh shit, am I dead? And so they come, my friends come, I see them coming, literally just like on the goddamn movies when the ghost is screaming at the people and they can't hear him. That's just like they were able to walk through me. They were able to talk through me. And at certain times when I got really frustrated to try to contact it was like they can sense me, but they couldn't see me or hear me or anything. Um, and the only thing that they made sure that I didn't go to jail, right? They went got drugs out my pocket and all of this type of thing, so I don't go to jail. I just overdose, right? And so they called 911 and everything, and the defibrillator is what saved me. Clear, beep. And so anyway, while I was out or whatever, they say I'm lucky because the ambulance was right still in the neighborhood on another call, and they just came around the corner. They said if that wouldn't have happened, I would have died because I would have my heart would have stopped for too long. So, but for that time that I was, you know, in what I like to call it the purgatory world. And I seen on TikTok recently somebody had described it, and it was like, everybody after they die, they linger on Earth for about 2 or 3 days before they realize what really has happened and transition onto the other side. And those who don't want to accept what happened, they become what one might call fixated spirit, or what you call ghost or residual energy of the soul, traveling about through the realm. So it was like that's what it felt like. It felt like, oh, I was in this middle state while I'm looking down at my body, and they're trying to bring me to life. And lo and behold, on the third try, clear, pop, I was back in my body, and and it wasn't like, oh, I jumped back or I went back or something sucked me back. No, it was just like I opened my eyes and I was back in my body. I don't remember. There is no memory from where I was to back in my body. It was just like they hit me the third time and I was up. It was like, okay, that was pretty intense. Um, at the time, I didn't realize how important that was I didn't realize how significant that was to me understanding the invisible world. But it was very significant to me understanding the invisible world. Then, I another overdose incident. And I call this the ultimate. I call that the ultimate near death. I call this the ultimate near death experience. Right, overdosed again. Right, and this time when I overdosed, I couldn't get out my whole body. Only my top torso was able to come out my whole body, and I was able to worm or snake myself and look at the scene. But I couldn't. I was still rooted in my bottom half of my astral form was still rooted in my body. Um, and the person who was trying to wake me up was slapping me, and I kept telling them they were trying to slap me. They were slapping me trying to wake me up, and I kept telling them, "Stop slapping me, stop smacking me. I'm up." But I'm looking at myself like, well, I'm not up, but I'm up. Stop slapping. Right. And so, they finally, threw water on me or whatever, and I snapped back up into my body. But these, every time I ever overdosed, there's always been this near death or death experience where, and I haven't seen no big old angels or no creatures come, guys. It was just me out of my body, realizing that I'm out of my body, this astral form, and I was able to witness, my shell outside of my shell and witness what everybody was doing. When I came back and told everybody what they're doing, you were doing this, and you did this. Like, what the hell? I'm like, well, I was watching you the whole time. Right. So when I asked one of my friends, like, "Hey, where's my money?" They're like, "What money? I seen you take my money out my pocket. Give me my money back." Right. So, and they're like, "Oh, wow, yeah," and they had to give me my money back because I seen them take the money out my pocket. Right. But it's been a crazy ordeal coming from this world of New Orleans, where spirituality, culture, witchcraft, the one might call religion, and all of the different practices of spirituality come to a full front, and experiencing life experiencing life from that negative standpoint. So, and then unique, very unique incident happened to me at 19 as well. During that overdose incident, I met a girl named Pandora, and Pandora really, really took me into a world of what I would like to call dark sorcery at the time. And in that, in learning, or in, you know, because I guess I add to the fact that I was so dark inside from my mother's that I attracted it, right? And so, because at that time, yeah, it was real dark for me. It was real pitch black for me, and the only thing that I was able to process was, this void inside. Like, how do I feel this emptiness inside? And trust me, y'all, it took me 33 years. I didn't become enlightened until I was 33. I'm 40 years old. It took me 33 years to finally fulfill and fill the void with what it needed, in that, that unconditional love state that my mom showed me so long ago. But it has been a crazy journey, right? And Pandora introduced me to into what people call the negative sorcery of life. I was able to witness, I was able to witness the parties. I was able to witness the orgies. I was able to witness the different doors and the secret rooms. I was the coke man. They used to invite me to. They used to always have me at the parties. So I had all the cocaine. I had all the drugs. I had all the connections to this and that. So I was able to attract people who really liked me because I had a resource that they wanted or needed in their life, that whether it was positive or negative. My friends, right? My negative friends used to always carry me, always invite me to go places with them, because they call me a good luck charm, because every time they do something illegal, we don't get in trouble, and they attribute that to my energy, right? It's always just been, and I've witnessed spirituality on a level of the movies that the guys, like the likes that you guys have never seen. Like, I've actually seen demons. And let me tell you, whether it's a demon, an angel, a dragon, a jinn, a gnome, a fairy, they will all manifest in the human body. Make no mistake, the invisible world is the real world. So the majority of demons you're going to see, they're going to look like humans. The majority of angels you're going to see, they're going to look like humans. The majority of angels I've encountered have been Hispanic humanoids. The majority of demons believe it or not, the majority of demons I've encountered have been black and white humanoids. And when it comes to the Asian population, I haven't really had much of encounter of the celestial kind except for like on 4 occasions. When it comes to the Indian population, I've had encounters of the celestial kind on a couple hundred occasions. And so, and healing over 25,000 patients of mental, physical, emotional, spiritual diseases, it has, you know, it has dawned on me that a lot of the times that we don't even know while we're doing this thing called shadow work, we are performing an exorcism. Okay. You have demons. You have dirtiness. You have taint in your closet that you are cleaning out and you are purging and you are taming your demon and teaching your demon how to grow up into an angel. You are not letting your demon take you to hell. You are introducing it to heaven. And so therefore you are performing an exorcism on yourself. And um, being a being a person that has performed exorcisms on my own self, and encountering my own demons, my own demon of addiction that I've completely destroyed and defeated. And I tell people, I never stopped being an addict. I just got addicted to something better. I just got addicted to something greater. I just got addicted to something that actually heals me instead of kills me. And so, I tell people I never stopped being a dope fiend. I just changed my dope. I never stopped being a fucking addict. No, I am addicted to meditation. I am addicted to herbs. I am addicted to, things, positive frequencies. I'm addicted to affirmations. I'm addicted to positive people, positive places, positive things. Do not cross into my world of positivity with your negativity, because I will adamantly defend my positivity, because I do not want anything negative around me, because I've come from the worst of negativity. And therefore, to keep that frequency from around me, I guard it at all costs, like the angels at the garden that wouldn't let Adam and Eve back in for biting the damn apple. I am really guarding this garden of positive vibrations, right? And so I never, all of the negative things that I did, I learned from those negative things. Remember, some of the negative tactics that I used in the streets to get people hooked on heroin, or to get people to buy heroin from me, or to get people to commit crimes with me, or do anything self-destructive, right? Those same tactics I use people to do now to build themselves, heal themselves. And, the same influence that I had, like for instance, y'all, look how life come back to bite you. Two of my friends, I got them hooked on drugs. I literally was their path starter to shooting heroin, right? And those same so-called friends, because that's not really friendly of me to even do something like that, right? But those same friends tried to kill me because somebody offered them heroin to do it. Look how life bites you in. Look how life teaches you a lesson. Everything is a karmic debt or a karmic reward. It's just on how much do you owe the universal balance, right? And so some of us come into the game with no karmic debt, and therefore we live the hardest of lives. Why? Because once we make it to the top of the mountain, we're not falling off. Wow, we don't owe the universal banking establishment nothing. We don't owe the cosmic banking establishment. We don't owe the cosmic IRS anything. The cosmic IRS owes us back pay, right? This is how much, the person with the positive vibration has been living. So coming into, all of these different aspects of life, I grew up around multiple different ethnicities that showed me how different ethnicities interact with different spiritualities. And that was wonderful and unique, right? I was able to really, really, really dive deep down the rabbit hole of the world that you guys don't probably believe don't exist. And let me tell you, it does, man. Vampires do exist. Demons do exist. Angels do exist. They just exist inside of you, my fellow human. You are the universal carbon copy. You are an immediate carbon copy projection of the universal mainframe. And you come equipped with something called the all. All means everything. Everything means you're able to tap into everything, anything, everywhere, at any time. All you have to do is apply your mind. Your mind is your what? Your mind is your computer, your CPU. It comes equipped with a voice name. It comes equipped with a Siri, but you call the Siri me. So when you say silently in your mind, Shannon, last time I checked, you didn't move your lips, but you still heard your voice. So how did you move your lips and say your name without moving your lips? And how did you hear your name without using your ears? You having an internal computer system, right? It holds 10 petabytes of data. Go look up in the science field. Our brains hold 10 petabytes of data. This system is made to govern the mechanical functions of our body. And our body is made to exemplify the spiritual actions of the cosmos. Our body language is just the cosmic dance that we are doing on the inside. And so this is why body language is the most telltale language of all languages, because it tells us what's really going on inside of you, what you're really thinking, what you're really feeling. Your body will tell it before your mouth and your emotions. Your body will snitch on you. And so I tell people, get yourself together, because no matter what you think and what you perceive, people can see what's really going on, especially if they know how to pay attention to the body. Um, and so living this path, I've gotten to know these different aspects of life and these different aspects of people. My dad was a Muslim. My mom was a Pentecostal Christian and a paganist. I have friends who are in Buddhism. I have friends who are in Kabbalah. I have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses. I have friends who are in different sects of Islam. You know, I've had religious friends from all walks of life, but then I've had paganistic friends. I have atheist friends. I have all sorts of people that came in my life of different spiritual practices. And guess what, y'all? I've met a successful person from every single walk of life, even the evil one. I've met a successful person in every single walk of life, even the evil path. Because guess what, y'all? I found out. The universe doesn't care if you're good or evil. The universe just wants you to pick one. Any questions?
I just got chills because that was really profound. Thank you so much for sharing all that and adding all that amazing wisdom. First of all, I really loved what you said. This resonated so much with me. I'm still an addict. Now my addiction is self-care, self-love, loving others. I mean, it always was loving others. It's meditation, yoga, spirituality, and
Why? I ask you a question. Why is self care and self love the greatest and the most important?
oh,
Can you
that's
tell?
such a good question. Well, I can't wait to hear what you say about it. But why, to me, having not thought this through, we're all one, right? So there are many facets to this answer. One, I believe that we are all part of God, source energy, whatever you, right?
Okay.
So self-love is it's universal love, but
Ah,
you can't love anyone else until you love yourself properly. You can't be of service to anyone else unless if you hate yourself, if you're keeping yourself small, if you're keeping yourself down. You can't shine that light and contribute to the world with a dull energy. But I think like having gone through a 12-step program myself where I come from codependency and validation addict and love addiction, and it came from thinking I wasn't enough, thinking I wasn't worthy, thinking I was ugly because when I was little, that's what little kids told me. And because of that, I allowed the darkness in. I did. I wasn't a substance addict, but I drank, to supplement my addiction because I couldn't have done half the things I did because I had integrity and I was a good person, but I wouldn't be able to go through with some of the things I did if I weren't inebriated. I had to numb myself,
exactly.
right? And like I just think, oh, I just think of your little child self, and I think that poor kid didn't have the coping skills because who was taking you to I mean, you didn't know nobody was like, "Here, let's put him in therapy or let's support him in this." And so what do you do when you don't know what the coping skills are? All you know is you're in so much pain, you're grasping, grasping, grasping. So in your case, drugs and mine promiscuity as well, and numbing out because we don't know what to do with this pain. What are we supposed to do when we feel like this? Nobody really, I mean, I don't want to say
I,
nobody tells you.
Nobody does know. Like we
Yeah.
go to public school and our public school teachers don't teach us this. Our parents don't teach us this.
Yeah.
We are literally sent into the gauntlet with no weapons at all, like and
Right.
expect to defend ourselves,
'Cause they
right?
don't
So
even yeah, I mean, I think half the time for me, no one even really knew what was, quote, unquote, "wrong with me." They were just like, "She's anxious," but why? And
I heard the saying, hurt people,
hurt people, yeah. And
right?
because I didn't love myself, I mainly hurt myself, but I was married and I hurt my husband because I needed so much validation elsewhere that I was unfaithful to him. And things like that that now I can't even imagine doing. Um, but these are things that
It's
out of
like
my own
it,
pain.
does it literally feels like so in my case it literally feels like right now from the standpoint where I'm at right now it literally feels like that life that I told you guys about. It felt like I was possessed, and and I I finally awakened from that possession. um
Yes, and actually I'm gonna ask, I know you're going there, but I'm gonna ask you, how I know a bit of it, but how do you go from that life and that state of mind? And if you're anything like me, it's a progression. It doesn't happen overnight, but when did you start to see the light or go towards the light? What was it that was it a moment of I have to change this, or did it happen gradually?
it was gradually. It was the little, I call it the little bitty nuggets on the trail of the yellow brick road going to eyes, right? And you know, it's the whole walk of the yellow brick road that makes, the Wizard of Oz the Wizard of Oz. It wasn't just one point. It wasn't just one song. It was just the whole story that captivates you, right? And so when it came to me, first and foremost, it was the positive reinforcement programming that my mom and my dad instilled for me as youth. They always told me that I can defeat anything. My mom used to read The Little Engine That Could every night to me. So I always thought I could. I think I can. I think I can. So even at my worst situations, I always felt like something better was going to come. I didn't know when, I didn't know where, I didn't know how. Something better got to come. So let me start at least trying to look for that something better. Even though it took me a while to find it, I never stopped looking. I never stopped thinking that it gets better after this. It's gonna get better. I'm getting there, right? And so that's the gradualness. Like me, always keeping the mentality of I'm going to get to where I want to be one day. I never accepted defeat. I never gave up. I never said that this is it. I never threw in the towel. And therefore, I remember, man, like you brought me back. I remember I was shooting heroin in the mirror, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, telling myself, "You're not going to be doing this. You're not going to be doing this for long. This is only temporary." And I was doing it, but I was telling myself, "This is only temporary. You're not going to be doing this for long. You're better than this." I started upgrading my mirror talk. I started holding myself accountable in the mirror, first and foremost. Rance, shame on you. You're better than this. You know you can do better than this. You know that you are better than this. You're making excuses. Stop making excuses. Get up off your ass if you plan to be changed and you want your life to change. Nobody's going to come and save you. You got to save yourself. These are the things that I used to tell myself in the mirror. Watching positive videos on YouTube and listening to different perspectives in life eventually talks you off the ledge or pushes you off the ledge of change, because there comes a point where you get sick and tired of making the same mistake, making the same decision, expecting different results, right? You get to a point of, okay, I've exhausted that method. I got to do something now or I'm not going to make it. And that's when you're faced with, okay, what do I do? But I've always believed in the spirit. I've always believed in all of these different things. So, and I owe a lot of my awakenings to jail, prison. Prison was originally meant for rehabilitation, and every single time I went, I gave roughly 12 years of my life to the prison system, and every single time I went, which were short increments, every single time I went, I gradually upgraded myself every single time and came out better than I was than before, right? With the lack of knowledge that I had, learning on my own and teaching myself. And that's the thing about the self-taught process. When you're teaching yourself and you're learning on your own and you don't have the answer, you will make mistake after mistake after mistake to get to the right place. But the one thing I did learn about it was, man, I'll never have to make those mistakes ever again. And everybody who's making those mistakes now, I can actually guide them and show them like, hey, man, I made that mistake before. You might want to do this, right? And I'm not a person that is into compulsion. I'm into a person that's into persuasion. Like, let me persuade you with my life that your life isn't so bad. And let me show you where I come from to show you that, hey, I come from the same place you come from. So if I can do it, so can you, right? And so the the real changing standpoint came when in 2000 and in 2005 for Hurricane Katrina, and that's when I started getting authors in my lap like Napoleon Hill and Eckhart Tolle and David Icke and Zachariah Sitchin and all of these different great wonderful self-help books were The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. All of these great books were just these great, wonderful things I was attracted to upgrade myself. And I started to see, wait a minute, I am hindering myself with my negative self-talk. Oh, it is my emotions that's attracting these negative situations. Oh, wait a minute. It is all my fault why my life is my fault. Wait a minute. God, no, why nobody ever taught me this? I always felt this, but now like this is the confirmation. This was like a confirmation that, hey, what you were feeling all along, here goes the receipt to what you were feeling all along. Here goes the receipt. Yes, it's really you. Because I used to say, is it me? What am I doing wrong? I used to ask myself that, what am I doing wrong? I knew it was me. I just didn't know what part of me was doing it wrong. I didn't know that if I keep talking about my negative circumstances, that I will attract more negative circumstances. I didn't know that if I sat down and have a pity party, I'm destined to have another pity party. Right? I didn't know that if I eat negative foods, I am what I eat and I think what I drink. I didn't know these things. I didn't know that, certain foods can make you put you in certain moods. I didn't know that all of these things, these were new findings to me reading these different self-help books. It's like I know these guys personally, how I religiously read these books and awakened to parts of reality that I always suspected were real, but never knew but never confirmed it until I went on my own path of self forgery, right? Forging my own self path into, who I am today. And then, so coming into the chakras in 2008 and 9, or 2009, really, coming into the chakras and the knowledge of the chakras in 2009, I always was a person that said, if it's real, I'll be able to feel it. So I went on my own inside journey within, because in order to activate your chakras or tap into the chakras, you can't go outside and look on the outside journey. You got to go within. And I went within and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like the memories that were coming back up as I was going on this spiritual cleansing journey. I was recognizing my flaws at a high level, on the level of correcting them, not recognizing my flaws, beating myself up for them, having a pity party and regurgitating the negative energy. But recognizing my flaws, saying, that's something big. If I change that, my life will increase by this much. Right. And so soon as like these things, as soon as I changed my thinking and my diet, I received an immediate pay raise in life. Like as soon as I changed my thinking and my diet alone, I received an immediate pay raise in life. And then when I kept doing that perpetually, it started attracting more and more beautiful things. I thought I had it. I got a big old puffed up head and I thought I had it. Yay, I've achieved it. And boy, oh boy, the universe knocked me down. I'm talking about far to the ground, and showed me, no, you don't have it yet. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Roll your dice again. Let's see where you land. And I had to roll the dice again and get out of jail of the Park Place, right? And so what happened was I coming to this culmination. I'm 33 years old. I prayed to the universe. I'm like, universe, put my back into a corner, put me into an impossible situation where the only option that I have left is to ascend. That's what I ask the universe. Universe, great grand holy mother, universal, divine, prime mother earth, put me in a situation where the only thing that I have to look forward to grasping to is that which is within me. Do not give me no way out. I want you to put me into the biggest, put my back against the biggest wall that you can find and let me fight my way out. And that's what she did. She had an unfortunate incident happen to me, right, in the form of me trying to do positive for someone, and they really tried, and they repaid that positivity with a lot of negativity in the form of trying to steal and rob from me, right? And when that happened, it was like, this is what I prayed for. For the first time in life, I was happy to be in jail. For the first time in life ever, I'm 33 years old. I'm fucking happy to the ceiling. Like, hey, wow, everybody thought I was crazy. And they didn't know that my prayer got answered. She finally put me in the one place where I was able to rehab. And I went into that old chakra meditation structure that I created for myself. But this time I took it to the extreme and I activated my chakras day and night. I did it like a yogi. I did it like a real yogi in the movies. All day I just sat on my bed on some Namye Renge Kyo type stuff, right? And people thought I was crazy. People thought I was insane. But at about 33, 34 days, I had this great spiritual awakening. And I've been the chakra doctor ever since, right? And people tell me, what was the defining moment? In jail, in the jail cell, 33rd day of activating round the clock meditation, like literally round the clock meditation. If it wasn't me, if in all of my awaking hours I was meditating or either sleeping and waking up and meditating again. That's all it was for almost 40 days straight. And with that, a spiritual awakening unlocked inside of me where my chakras, I call it full. That's why the name of my company is called FCA. I call it a full chakra activation. Literally every single chakra in my body turned on. This overwhelming heat, this overwhelming electricity, this heaven turned on. And it rushed over my body and said, this is the drug I was looking for. Mother, I was chasing the wrong high. I finally found my ultimate high. And who was it? My goddamn self, my spirit, my soul, my chakras. And literally, I can show you video after video of classes where I got the whole class saying, all chakras activate. And we're chanting all chakras activate, but everybody reports, I can feel it all over my body. Why did my body feel so warm? Why did my body feel so light? What is this overwhelming feeling? I'm a big guy that's into feeling. I'm like, I guess that's a part of me tapping into my sacred feminine. I am a man who can articulate his feelings at a proper level that females can understand it and don't see me as just being some macho pighead trying to boss them around, but see it as, hey, I really care for you. Acknowledge my feelings. Look, what's going on with me right now. I'm able to explain it to you, and I hope you understand that I'm giving this to you because I'm vulnerable and I trust you, right? So, men, we're afraid to do that. We don't know how to do that. We have not been taught to do that. So the only thing I feel like that can actually make that happen is spiritual awakenings, no doubt. But from that spiritual awakening, I was able to come, leave out of jail and I turned that meditation into a company. I turned that company into a brand that is slowly but surely organically going viral, and that's what I love about it. It's my path has been an organic, slow growth path, right? Until I hit that climax, and I've been, this chakra doctor guru of occult medicine ever since, right? And my business partner, Dr. Varun Gandhi, he's from Mumbai, India, and that's where the chakra technology is really, really prevalent at. So when I first came out into my company, I had to do a lot of these things I had to activate a lot of the Indian community's chakras. And they used to come to me and say, look like guru, but you a guru. right? And it was amazing to see, like, wow, just a few years ago I was ready to kill myself. Okay, wow, universe, you're crazy. And I think I love you now. I think I love you, right? So it's like it's just wonderful how the universe can show you, or you can show yourself, that you are worthy of something coming from nothing.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. What really strike I have two questions, but I want to say first of all that I want to talk about meditation for a minute because I think what it does is it brings us back to who we really are. And you're a beautiful person. You have always been a beautiful person. You were a beautiful person even when you were doing not so beautiful things. And I think I just got chills again. And I just think it's so beautiful. I keep saying beautiful, but that's just what I'm feeling. The shower, the spirit shower. Um,
That that's FCA yoga. No, literally, everybody report that during FCA yoga, just these intense chills. Oh, sorry.
I no, that's okay. I call them spirit tingles. And it's, it really just it's amazing how you and how a lot of people are able to. I think meditation, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is really it's a coming back to who you really are because you aren't the person, you aren't the drugs, you aren't the crime, you aren't that's not who you are at your essence. And I think it's so beautiful that even in this environment, and I have a very close friend who spent some time in prison, and I know it's hard to be zen in a situation like that. And but to be able to center yourself and just somehow have that knowing, which of course you had the prerequisite, your mother gave you that little spark. That was the gift she gave you. And but the fact is that you came back to that on your own. Your higher self knew, I'm better than this. And that was like your higher self talking to you, and probably your mother's spirit as well, and probably your spirit guides as well, saying, You are you are you are so much more than this." But I'm so
I can just imagine
inspired.
her world laughing at me like, "Ha! Does he know where he's gonna be when he's 33?
Right.
Let's find out. He's gonna be
Right.
out."
And I just love that you came back to it and that you were able to just center yourself. And you said after like whatever 40 days of meditation, you're like, oh wait, now I really remember who I am, which is this child of God or whatever, however you want to put it.
Yeah,
You're this
really, really,
light.
you really realize that you are God. I
Yeah.
tell people God has multiple personality disorder, and you're just one of the personalities. This is the power of omnipresence, being present within all things, simultaneously knowing it. So,
Yeah.
and omnipotence means you have power over all things while simultaneously knowing that too. Right.
Yeah.
So to allow for the all to allow all to be without actually wielding the force of manipulation and control over us and allowing us to have the choice of freedom to choose for ourselves shows you what we need to be doing for each other. Let's do for each other what the universe has allowed us to do. The universe has allowed us the freedom of choice, but we don't allow ourselves the freedom of choice. What's good? Something's wrong with that picture.
Right. It's not in alignment. And as somebody who also, I was telling you 15 plus years ago, I was just a shell of myself and I was so depressed and I wanted to take my life. It was because of my love for my amazing family that kept me from doing anything about it, thank God. And I'm so glad I stuck it out because life is amazing now. But I just remember when you're in it, this is leading to the question. When you're in it, it feels so hard. Everything has just, it's that lack of, we call it sometimes in 12 step. It's not really a 12-step thing because we're not, it's not a religious organization, but it's that God-sized hole. And that's what makes us use whatever your addiction is, whether it's people, drugs, money, gambling, shopping, it's all because there's this God-sized hole, meaning you're missing that self-love and that love of who you really are as a soul and a spirit or whatever that looks like to you. So I really want to ask you, because I know you and I have this common mission, is to inspire other people and give them hope that if I can do it, you can do it. If it doesn't have to be like this. But I understand that when people are in such a dark hole, it can feel insurmountable. Like, especially when you come from a background like you did, where you didn't have a lot of support. And there was sort of a culture of, there's people coming and going out of your life, and there's abuse, and there's
I call it the culture. I call it the poverty culture.
the poverty.
There's
Yes, the poverty culture.
there's a poverty culture and there's a culture of riches. You're either going to be
Right.
a culture of poverty, or you're going to be a poverty-minded culture, or you're going to be a rich-minded culture. A rich-minded culture sees the silver lining in every dark cloud. A rich mind sees the positive benefit in every calamity. A rich mind always turns tragedy into triumph, while a poor mind always focus on how the tragedy triumphed over them. So it is necessary for us to just start being rich minded again and do the old classic fake it till you make it, because nobody's going to live this life better than you. And the one thing that kept me um, reminded through all of the sufferings were the people. Like, all right, so right now, even if you never had nobody tell you, right now, you hearing Shannon and I talk is the evidence that the universe cares about you, because you would not be hearing these words had you not need to hear these words, right? And so the universe always sends unique people your way at certain times in your life to tell you and give you advice. You just got to be keen enough to hear it, listen to the advice, because sometimes you're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know where to go. And a random stranger can tell you what to do and where to go immediately. Sometimes you're going to get hit by the blind side and you're going to get knocked on your ass. Don't worry about that part. There's going to be something, someone, or someplace that's going to help you get up. Allow it to help you get up. A lot of the times we don't allow help to enter our lives. And then when we do allow help to enter our life, we make the fatal mistake of trying to tell help how to help us. You cannot tell help how to help you, right? And the reason why I say that, because you're the one that need help. Help don't need you. You need help. So you can't tell help how to help you when you're the actual one in need of it, right? And so we make the fatal mistake of trying to coach help on how to help us. No, help knows that this dislocated shoulder, he's about to pop it back into your socket, and help knows that it's gonna hurt. Help don't care about you crying because he popped your shoulder back into your socket. Help only make sure that your shoulder is back into its socket in its proper place. Right? Think about it. You never wonder why the doctor never feigns sentiment over the patient hurting while they're healing the patient, because in the end they know that this pain is actually causing a healing process. And so I always, my mom taught me that at an early age, because I was the only child and I had went through this stage where I was real selfish as the only child, being spoiled. And she broke me out of it by everything that she ever bought me. From then on, I had to share it with my friends in the neighborhood. That really broke me out of selfishness. Right. Well, brand new bike for Christmas. Don't worry, your friend is riding it right now on Christmas Day. Yeah. So I broke out of that habit really quick, and that helped me grow camaraderie. That helped me grow a spirit of giving and sharing, without feeling any kind of way, or feeling me. I need to have me, right? And so people always showed up in my life, and places, situations, things, pets, like these random rescue pets always showed up in my life. It gave me love. I remember, man, I was at my lowest and a cat saved me, stopped me from going off the edge. You know, I've been in situations, the angels that you beware, because you entertain angels unaware. There'll be that one person while you're standing in line in the grocery store that'll tell you that one sentence that'll strike that one thing that'll make you go, you know what? You're right. I can do this. I remember one time somebody stopped me in mid track. I don't know who this person was. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. And they just stopped me out of the blue and said, God wanted me to tell you that you are more than a conqueror. And I was like in the most craziest time of my life at that time. And just this random stranger stopped and told me that I was more, I was going to conquer this situation. Right. And so it's little things like that that kept me going. Like um, people people who truly genuinely had some type of care for me, I was able to witness that in them and not push them away. And rely on your support system, no matter where that support system comes from, whether it's a friend, a family member, relative, a person that isn't related to you by blood, but they're related to you by camaraderie through a program, or especially in those the 12-step programs, they give you a mentor, right? Your sponsor, really, and your sponsor and things of that nature, right? And so I tell people, man, once you make it out of hell, decide to become a sponsor to people, man, because they got people who still living in hell. Just because you made it out don't mean everybody else made it out. But that's what really used to happen, man. People used to tell me, you're better than this, you can do better than this, and I used to believe them. Like, I know I can do better than this. You shouldn't have to tell me this. I should be doing this shit on my own, right? I should be doing this on my own. And I properly beat myself up, people. I didn't kill myself, but I properly beat myself up. I made sure that I knew it was shame on me. I did not blame anybody for my addiction. I did not blame anyone for my fucked up life, my screwed up life. Excuse my French. I did not blame anybody for the bad decisions I made that put me in prison. I did not blame anybody for, the harm's way that I put myself in by hanging associated with certain people. I did not blame anyone but me. And I finally owned up to what I did that put me in the situation. No matter what anybody did to me, I still had a big part in what I do. I have the ultimate part in saying what I do. And so that's the one thing that really, really, really stuck out. Like, I know that I was messing up and it wasn't on anybody else. And so with every mess up came the realization of, okay, you got to get better. You got to get better. And I never stopped striving for perfection. Like somebody in jail, I had this guru. He's the smartest man to this day I ever met in my life. He's autodidactic. He can write with both right hand and left hand. He can take his name and write his name perfectly with both right hand and left hand at the same time. He's autographic memory. He can read a book one time and remember it word for word, dictionaries, encyclopedias. And so he told me, he told me this thing that this, I guess it was his proverb or his, his the way he calculates or process information. And and he told me that God is, every single path of life leads back to God, even evil. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, look at the word evil. And I said, all right. He said, spell it backwards. I said, L-I-V-E. You say, you see, isn't God live, and isn't God the ever living and the eternal life? Right? Right. But backwards, God is evil. He said, look at the word love. I said, all right, spell it backwards. Evil or evil. Okay, so if you're being loved wrong, then it's safe to say you're experiencing the evil side of love. And if you're being loved right, it's safe to say you're experiencing the good side of love. But no matter what side you experience, you're going to experience the evil side of love or the good side of love. It's just depending on what God intends for you this life cycle. He said, draw a circle. I drew a circle. He said, now draw these squiggly lines and make it look like a sun, a regular sun like a kindergarten. I said, all right. So he said, make sure you draw about 9 squiggly lines. And he said, all right. He said, these are your 9 paths. These are your 9 life paths, or these are the 9 different religions, or the 9 major whatevers in life. And he said, this is Christianity, this is Islam, this is Kabbalah, this is paganism, this is Buddhism, this is Hinduism, this is this is that, this is that. He said, God is omnipresent, right? Correct? Yes, God is omnipresent, meaning God is present in the Buddhist, God is present in the Satanist, God is present in the Christian, and God is present in the Muslim, right? Right. So it's safe to say that every single one of these paths ultimately lead back to the creator source, right? Is that correct? Right. So never, ever, 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 ever judge anyone on what they believe in, because that belief system ultimately leads back to creator source. And creator source is present in all belief systems, even the evil ones where they're doing the most heinous things. That heinous thing that they're committing ultimately will lead them back to creator source. And this is the logic that he gave me. He said, imagine being able to travel at infinite speeds. Would you do it? I said, yes. He said, now infinite speed means you can travel. There's no cap. There's no limit on your speed travel. right? It says, so if you can travel at infinite speed, that's way faster than the speed of light, right? So if you're traveling at infinite speed, it is safe to say that you can be everywhere at once because you're traveling that fast, aren't you? Right. You said, you ever wonder why they ever tell you in the Bible to fast? Right? He said, because when you are traveling at this past the speed of light, which is infinity, you become God conscious because that's the speed that God travels at. So understand that omnipresence is just God traveling fast at the speed past the speed of light, the speed of infinity, the speed of eternity. And so, these were the simple lessons he taught me on how to understand the complex concept of infinite nature and eternal nature. He gave me another one. He said, time. So I say, right. He said, infinite is immortal, infinite is eternal. You can't measure it. It's immeasurable, right? Right. Well, time is the way that we measure parts of it. So if you want to understand infinity, just go look at time. Time has a lot of records of activities that infinity has been doing. So like all of these little things that he used to tell me and stick with me to this day is like, wow, he was so right then, and now I'm older and it's like I preach it to the rooftops now and I've experienced it now. But back then it was just me soaking up and being a quiet student. But it's like now it's like, wow, I'm so glad I soaked it up and was a quiet student because now I'm able to actually live the principle and not teach it, right? So it's a different living what you're teaching versus teaching it and then halfway living it. I actually fully live what I teach. It's a full-time entrepreneurship what I teach. What I teach and what I live are synonymously one and the same. When you buy my brand, you're buying me. I'm for sale, right? And so there's no such thing as my business and me. No, I am my business. My business is me. My business is personal. My personal is business. And so that's where I'm at with human beings in life and loving myself and loving others. Like I treat human beings um, like my business. I love them like I love my business. Even in their most primitive of states. Their most beastly or their most heinous of states. You still have to love them to know how to properly deal with them in that state. Somebody had asked me, hey, do you think that that a person loves someone if they fuss at them or tell them, or reprimand them? I said that's the ultimate love. The people who are able to tell you how to correct yourself and don't care about how you feel and don't care about hurting your feelings because they know ultimately that your hurt feelings are that those hurt feelings are going to spark a change. Um, and then just like the Oracle in the movie Matrix when she told Neo, "Yeah, you're not the one. Sorry, kid, but no cigar." That made him go be the one. So she reversed psychology, right, and told him that he wasn't the one, and that made him go be the one. That's kind of the same thing what I do in my practice. Like, I tell people that, hey man, you your choices is your choices, but know that they have better choices out there. And if you decide to pass up these better choices because you wanted to follow your idiotic choices, that was your idiotic choice. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have the right to that idiotic choice, but just know that you are making an idiotic choice. Because here's goes a better choice right here. So we're always presented with a better choice. It's just those of us who choose the better choice and keep sticking with choosing better choices, and those of us who occasionally choose better choices while keep repeating the same mistakes.
Oh my gosh. Everything you said, I didn't even have to ask the questions because you got to exactly what I was going to ask, which was in that case, what do you tell somebody who didn't have the mom that at least gave them that spark of hope? Or me, I had wonderful supportive parents and I came from an affluent background. And so I had something to come back to. So it wasn't maybe as steep a hill to climb, but it was psychologically, just the pain that I was in didn't matter who I came from or how much love I had as a child. But I know there are people that will say, well, I had no love and I had the worst upbringing and I had so much abuse. But I love what you said about it doesn't mean you're blaming yourself, but you take responsibility where you can. And also, I love that idea you presented of there are people who care. You have to if you only think that no one loves you and never will, that's all you're going to find and attract. But if you
It's a
say
strange
there's
thing most.
what's that?
In your experience, I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
In my experience, it's been the strange. Is that hold on? Your last name is what? Your last name is my name. All right, Rance.
Torrance? Oh,
Rence. I was
oh, well,
Rance. My name is Rance. So you say
oh,
Torrance.
right. Torrance. Yes, yes, yes. I see
Right.
what you're
So
saying.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, in your experience of climbing back up the hill, right? In your experience of how does a female drag herself? How does a female win her womanhood back after she's, given it away and you know has brought herself to a lower state, like,
Yeah.
and she feel like she's giving it away. Like you said, you built you were the wolf climbing the hill and you made it back, and you're still, I still keep myself in that wolf mentality, like I'm still climbing the hill. I'm never satisfied. Like I'm
Oh,
always
yeah.
dog,
It's
right? So,
yeah.
but
That's a
there
good
is a
question.
there's a level of the hill that you made it to where everybody can see you climbing up the hill, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, how do you regain that femininity back when you squandered it and did all of
Yeah.
those
I think it's the same that I would tell anyone, regardless of their gender, whatever, is and I happen to have done it through 12 step. Whatever works for you, I that really worked for me, even though I was always the type of person that was like eye rolly about anything group holding hands and mantras. Like I always thought, no way. But what I always tell people, because I'm asked to speak at meetings quite a bit, and I always say, it's how do you develop self-love? Well, first, for me, it's when you act with integrity, for one thing. This is one component. When you act with integrity, that's when you start to love yourself, when you're consistent, when you um I don't want to just say stop the behavior, but when you live in a place of integrity and service to others, and your focus is on service to others, self-care, self-love, you
things?
begin to truly love yourself because you can finally be proud of yourself. No more lies to cover up what you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. Some people lie to others. I mainly lied to myself, but I hid a lot of my behavior because of shame. So the way you come out of shame, which is an addict's worst enemy, is that you engage in acts of integrity and you engage in acts of love and honesty. So the more I act with integrity, the more I really respect myself and the more I love myself. And it's the self-care too. I mean, first of all, I feel like everyone should do the fourth step, at least, of the 12-step program, where that's where you, as you said, you learn to break down every resentment that you have. And sometimes, look, in the case of abuse, for example, you didn't do anything wrong. You were a child. You can put that down as a resentment, but we don't continue to say what was your part in it in that sense, because a child does not have that kind of, there's
Right.
nothing you could have done, but you could acknowledge it. Then you kind of go down and say, oh, this person treated me this way because I actually allowed them to treat me that way. Once I was old enough to make my own choices, as you said, you could sit there and say, well, this person did me wrong and this person did me wrong. And that's sometimes it's just true. Sometimes you really were a victim. But in other cases, I wrote down and I had to come up with as many as I could. 75 people that have done me wrong or things that have hurt me or things that have made me feel bad about myself. It all came down to one thing: my own low self-esteem, my own inability to speak up and be assertive, my own ability to take care of my own needs. So yes, barring actual abuse, there is always something that you get out of a unhealthy situation. And there's always something that my part was I allowed it. My part was I didn't speak up. I didn't demand better. I allowed that person to treat me this way. But once you start to come out of it and live a different life, I think that just the self-love comes from I don't have any days now where I wake up with that pit in my stomach, which I'm sure you've experienced of I got myself into a pickle. I've How do I cover up this thing or this lie? I'm embarrassed about what I did. I shouldn't have done that. There's never any remorse anymore
Mm.
because I always I'm not perfect, but I always aim to act with integrity and to be as honest as I can. I'm still working on being more assertive with people, but once you set better boundaries too, I don't even find myself attracted to the same kinds of people as often. I don't want to say
Right.
it never happens, but like, I don't find it attractive if you don't take an interest in me. I don't find and so just in that sense, it's like, I don't
You're you're finally demanding you're finally giving yourself the attention that you demand from others,
yes.
and
And
recognizing when it's not being projected to you from that particular source that you're getting attention from. Like it's kind of it's kind of a catch-22. Like, hey, I'm not going to attract the proper lover until I am the proper lover that I'm trying to attract. It's crazy.
Yes. My one of my favorite quotes is by the author Tom Robbins, who wrote Jitterbug Perfume and some other books. And he said, we waste time looking for the perfect love. Wait, we waste time looking for the perfect lover instead of creating the perfect love.
Yep.
And that's something that with the self-love comes the self-esteem where I don't even find myself wanting to act out the way
So
I did.
right. So that's what I'm asking. Like, what is what is the jump off point? Like, is it was it meditation for you? Was it, like what was the actual straw
Yeah.
that broke the camel's back, or what was the actual epiphany that
Yeah.
the eureka? What was the eureka
I
moment?
have one like yours where you're kind of like in this dark place and then you're just like your higher self is like, no more of this. It was I had been dating another person who was lovely, a really good person, but just not available. And I just was crying and crying. And I thought, I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. I can't. And I had already gone into the 12-step program, but I was in and out. I'd go in and I'd feel better and be like, I can handle this. And I'd go date some other person that was a trigger for me. And that would trigger all my insecurities and stuff because they just weren't able to show up because of their own stuff. Not bad people, just unavailable. And finally I was crying and crying and sobbing. And I thought, I I'm done with this. Like I'm so done feeling like this. Every time a lover leaves or whatever, or I feel like I can't live. And I was like, this is just I can't do this. And this isn't love. Obviously, it took like years of, and you know what? One thing you said too, I wanted to mention, you said fake it till you make it. I did that. And I just told a friend this the other day. There were days I wanted to take my life. I could barely breathe from the withdrawal. Love addicts have withdrawal just like heroin addicts do. And in fact, I heard a heroin addict once say, I in a love addiction meeting, he said, I have withdrawn from heroin. Love addiction is 100 times more painful than withdrawing from drugs. It's because it's human connection that we actually need. But when the love addict goes through a separation, it's called withdrawal. It's just like withdrawing from a drug. The dopamine crashes, the oxytocin crashes, and you just feel sick. And I remember dragging myself to a meeting and just going, I don't even feel like being alive, but I just sort of zombie walked in there. I sat there. It didn't feel better, but I just kept showing up. And I think it's progress. And that's why they say it's progress, not perfection. And also giving myself up to a higher power actually opened up a lot of this spiritual stuff for me because I was agnostic, sometimes atheist. And I said, well, I don't really believe in God, but what if I just act as if? What if there is this loving God and I can just let go and stop trying to control and manage everything and trust a higher power? They say in 12 step, it could be a doorknob. Just give it up to something. If you cannot say the word God, if you're uncomfortable, whatever that we call it the God of your understanding. It doesn't have to be anything. It could be nature. It could be a Buddhist. It doesn't matter. Just give up that need for control and manipulation and trying to fix and manage because obviously that ain't
Uh,
working.
the, the serenity to accept the things you can't change, man.
The best prayer. It's the best written thing.
Right? You got to accept the things that you can't change because in life there will be things that are out of your control, and if you are a type of person that relies on control to feel to maintain your identity, then you're going to lose your identity real quickly.
Yep. And I also think that's so true. And also, I remember my sponsor saying, I started dating this guy that was not committing to me. And, the guy that calls every 2 weeks, you want to come over kind of thing. And I let that go on for a year. And, thinking somehow he's going to come around and like, and he would sort of come around and then run out the door again. So she said, look, if you want, she didn't say, don't do this. She said, this is your program. If you want to do this, fall on your face, see how it feels. Sometimes you need to fall and get back up and fall and get back up until it really sinks in that I don't want to do this anymore. And I did. I needed to do that. I needed to regress a little bit. I was a little healthier this time. I did kind of sort of state my needs, but then I would not stick to my boundaries, and that kind of thing. But ultimately, I think that's the message is don't expect sobriety, recovery from trauma, from drugs, from whatever to be an overnight process. And don't beat yourself up if it's not a perfect path, because from those stumbles, that's where we keep growing. And that's where we keep saying, I really don't like the way this feels. I'm tired of feeling like this. And like you said, I think the tipping point was just, it wasn't really a tipping point as much as I'm just going to keep showing up and keep showing up. And then eventually I ended up sponsoring other people. And, my sponsors helped me so much. And then being of service, as you said, giving back, and then kind of just that feeling, it gives you a sense of self-esteem when you realize that just when you start to understand your own essence is
Yeah,
love.
you start to feel good whenever you treat yourself good. Good feeling
Yes.
bring. I mean, good treatment brings good feelings. No matter where the good treatment is coming from. When somebody else treats you good, it makes you feel good. Especially when they're coming genuinely from a place of good and not trying to manipulate or use you. And then when you treat yourself good, it makes you feel great. It makes you feel wonderful. It makes you say, "Hey, I am worth this treatment that I'm giving myself," right? And you start looking for ways to give yourself the treatment some more. You start looking for ways to replicate the good feeling that you're able to give to yourself and not have to rely on an outside source outside of you to give yourself happiness, right? And a lot of people we're relying on everything outside of ourselves for happiness. Somebody was just I was on a podcast and and they were like, man, I want to have an out of body experience. I'm like, man, you want to have an out of body experience? I went on an inner body experience, and that's what I yearn for, the inner body experiences, those experiences that I run into inside of myself that me, myself, and I have to sort out, right? Um those I can't even say skeletons in the closet, but those those things that arise or bubble up at the top of the surface when it's time for you to take care of them. You know what I mean? These are the inside quirks and the inside little things that you have to tweak in order to really become that character that you see yourself becoming overall, right? There are certain parts of your speech and certain parts of the way you carry yourself, or certain parts of the way you project your energy, or certain insecurities you got to get over, or whatever the case may be. Um, the whole point is perfect yourself. Like, keep working on yourself, right? The results gonna come as long as you work on yourself. But if you're not working on yourself day in and day out, just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing. Remember, no matter if it's a cloudy sky, the sun shows up every day. No days off. No days off. The sun shows up every day. Even though you might have a cloudy sky, it's a cloudy sky. It never said it was a cloudy sun. The sun's still shining. You just got clouds in your sky. But the sun and the moon, they show up every day to work. So, try to mimic the sun and the moon. What makes them show up every day to make sure that you live? You know, do that for yourself. Show up every day for yourself so that you can know what it feels like to be for you 365 days out of the year.
Amen, Reverend. I'm not going to add anything more because I can't top that. That was beautiful. I am so grateful that we met. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you chose to shine your light, share your energy and your wisdom and your insight with me and my listeners. I look forward to keeping in touch with you as a friend. And I'm going to put
Love to
all
activate your chakras. I would love to activate your chakras. Whenever you get the chance,
amazing.
let me come on your show and I'll activate your chakras
I would love that. Show
and your
everyone how it's done.
well, yeah, that's what I do. We participate in group activations, and they can just hear it by ear, and it's a guided meditation, and they'll be able to feel the power of it in the privacy of their own home, and you'll be able to experience it in
Let's
your studio, and we can do it.
Then we need to do it. Then we're going to set it up. And I'm going to put all of your links below and
What is your
everything. But
zodiac sign?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh wow, my mom
Did you say you're a Aries? Wait, what did you say you are?
Aries.
Aries? Yes.
Aries. My mom was a Virgo. My mom, man, Virgos are cool. All
When
right,
when's her birthday?
September the 6th,
Okay,
9
I'm August 25th. And
mm,
I was going to
August.
say my mom's an Aries.
Your mom's an Aries?
Yep,
Well, you're lying.
I'm not lying.
Oh my goodness.
She's the best. She's the best.
So your mom's an Aries and you're a Virgo and I'm an Aries and my mom's a Virgo. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Bob,
Yeah.
Doppelgangers meet up.
Thank you again for being here. Namaste. Bless you. And I am so happy that we met.
Thank you. Likewise. Until next time.
Yes.